Alright, so in the last video we applied the diffuse and the normal to our model. It looks pretty good. And like I said, this is 2,000 tries, which would be pretty high actually. So you can always go in, sort of select every other edge. You know, you normally do it from towards the back of the head first. So something like this. And you can, you know, if this model isn't going to be rigged for animation, you can have some triangles in there. It's not a big deal. So again, I can go in here, you know, and this is all up to your art director's discretion, or if it's a personal project, you can just leave it high or look at the poly count on your Unity game. So let's go ahead and shift right click delete. You can see it still maintains the unwrap and it still looks pretty good. And when I click off, it doesn't look bad. It looks fantastic actually. And so same thing here, like I don't know if I really need, you know, for example, all of these edges in the chin here. You know, and I can shift right click delete edge. Same deal. Alright, so for now it doesn't matter. I'll leave the cleanup to your discretion. And actually a neat trick that I do when I clean up is I go in here and I turn on reflection, and you do that by double clicking here and you go down. Let's close out the outliner and you turn on reflection here and you can see it'll update on both sides. Now what's even cooler is you can turn on preserve UVs here, and so you can actually move them around and they won't affect your unwrap that much. So I can go in here and I can really clean up my topology by creating nice beautiful curves around the surface. Same thing here. If I want to really accentuate this area here, I can start moving these guys around. Alright, so let's go ahead and export this one more time over my low. And the reason is what we're going to do next is we're actually going to take this into Photoshop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to go to my skull folder on my desktop. Let's see if we can find that again. And open Skull Low. And you'll notice that, let's go ahead and hit yes for 3D space. It'll link up sort of some of the materials. So you can see here right off the bat we have our ambient occlusion. So what's cool about this is I can actually go in and I can paint right on the model by selecting B for brush. And if I go to my layers tab, I can make a new layer, and I can, for example, say this is like a nuclear reactor skull. You can see I'm actually drawing right here on the surface. And if I want to squash this, let me kind of make this a little bigger. You know, I'm drawing here, and this actually isn't on the skull yet. I can click down a layer and I can rotate this. Let's hit V or B for brush. Or I'm sorry, V. And I can actually move my skull around using these tools and sort of position it. And then when I'm ready, I go up to this layer and hit Control E, and it'll actually paste that texture right onto his skull. Now, I don't necessarily want to do that, and the reason is if we double click, you can see it's all drawn on there, where it says skull occlusion. If I double click that, you can see it painted right on that ambient occlusion. So I'm just going to hit Control Z. I'm going to go back in here and Control Z a couple times, or Control Alt Z. Control Alt Z goes through history, and I'm going to get rid of that texture. So I'm going to grab this and throw this away. And I'm going to double click that skull occlusion, and I'm going to make a new layer underneath this. So let's go ahead and unlock that. I did that by double clicking it. And I'm going to make this multiply. And what that allowed me to do is anywhere that's white, it'll make it transparent. So most skulls, because of oxidization, they start to yellow over time. So let's just find a yellow that we like, and I'm going to hit Alt Backspace to fill it. Oops, I want to make sure I'm on layer 1. And then when I switch back to my skull low OBJ, you can see that it added that yellowing in there, and which is pretty nice. So I can actually go in and like I said, if I have this layer selected, I can go up a layer here. I made a new layer there, and I can go to skull low OBJ, and I can actually start to really push. So let me say I have my black, I select the black color, and I'm going to make my brush, my opacity 30% by hitting 3. I can go in here and just really kind of clean up, you know, like darken in certain areas like this, you know, underneath the eyes. You know, I can hit X to switch between black and white, and I can throw a highlight. You know, let's go down to 10%. I can really throw a highlight across the surface here and on the cheekbones. And if we go back, if I double click skull occlusion, you can see that there is that layer. Let me put on the yellow so you can see there's the white I added. So you can really go in here and really push this. So say I wanted to really accentuate these teeth, right, where the darkness is in the teeth. I can go in here, grab my black, and just really kind of push in this detail, which is a lot of fun. You know, let me bring that up to about 50%. That'd make it a little easier. You can see something like this. Now the teeth, the light's going to hit it from the front, so I'm going to hit X, drop down to 20% by hitting 2. Just add a little highlight on the front of those teeth. Let's actually do that on this layer. A little highlight on each tooth. You can switch back, and you can see that it really pushed those values. And again, I should have not done it on the ambient occlusion layer. So once we're happy with that, you can what you can do here is, I'm actually going to just take this down about 50%. Well, I forgot that I actually painted on top of that. So let's just go ahead and save this off, just to check, to test it, to see how it looks on our model. I'm going to go to Desktop, Skull, Texture. And again, I'm going to actually, I like to save off my finals as Targas, but I'm going to save it as a JPEG. I'm going to name it Skull _ diffuse. Hit save. Hit OK. And then back in Maya, I'm going to go to Material Attributes and navigate back to that skull folder and hit open. And you can see that, hey, you know what? That dark line doesn't look too bad there. And those highlights look pretty good. So, and I mean, if you think about it, like, if you get pretty good at the sculpt, it does pretty much all of the hard work for you in respect to the diffuse. So, that's the end of this tutorial.